Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to our event titled Has Turkey Lost Europe? The Brussels-Ankara Relationship After 5 Years of Accession Negotiations. This panel was organized by Farina Hauser. She's not with us right now. She's in Europe. She worked with us over the summer. She put quite a lot of effort into organizing this. In her absence, we would like to extend our gratitude and thanks to her. Our director here at SETA D.C, Nuh Yilmaz, is really sick. I just got off the phone with him. We were trying to push it until the last minute to get him here, but he's really unable to even talk to me on the phone. We really apologize for this. He really wanted to be here, but he can't really get out of bed right now. So we apologize for that. The rationale behind organizing this panel, which was largely Farina's idea, was to sort of revisit Turkey-EU relationship after 5 years of negotiations. Where are we headed? Is somebody losing the other? Why are we having these discussions about whether Europe lost Turkey? And we flipped the question, has Turkey lost Europe? Or perhaps who lost whom? Or is that even true?
How about all is not lost?
Yes, we'll see after the discussion. I have somewhat of a pessimistic description here in some ways, saying, there is not a lot of reasons today to rejoice about the prospects of Turkey's EU membership. On the other hand, there are developments recently that try to energize this accession negotiations. But as most of you know, leaders on both sides have their misgivings and oppositions as well. Today, only 13 out of 35 negotiation chapters have been opened. 18 chapters are blocked, mostly due to the Cyprus dispute. Leaders in France, Germany, Austria, and the Netherlands seem to be opponents of Turkey's entry into the EU. And the Turkish side seems to be increasingly skeptic about the whole process and the prospects. Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan repeatedly has expressed his discontent about the slow pace of membership talks. So the question, I guess, is why should Ankara keep its commitment to a union haunted by institutional and economic crises itself? We'll see how correct this questions. On the other hand, the U.S. side, President Obama over the summer expressed his concern about the deteriorating relationship between Turkey and EU, and he said if Turkish people do not feel part of the European family, then obviously they're going to look elsewhere for alliances and affiliations. And Ankara's recent rift with Israel and Turkey's no vote on the sanctions against Iran, these seem to have contributed to this discussion whether the West is losing Turkey. But in July of 2010, European Commission sent its Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton to Istanbul, and Brussels has also expressed its praise for the recently passed constitutional amendments through the referendum in October. German Chancellor although being one of the loudest advocates of the privileged partnership idea, has also signaled her willingness to expand Turkey's accession talks, and then the whole discussion about multiculturalism, etc., as you have followed. So, what can be done about the whole process? Can we put the EU membership talks back on track? And Turkey's foreign policy, recently energized proactive foreign policy, how does that really fit into this structure? Is it a burden or is it an asset for Turkey to enter into the EU? These are some of the questions. We have more. Some of the questions we would like to explore today in this panel. I'd like to thank Juliette Tolay and Stephen Larrabee for joining us today. Juliette Tolay is pursuing her PhD degree at University of Delaware. She's been a fellow at the Transatlantic Academy of the German Marshall Fund. She conducts research on Turkish foreign policy. She's a French national. I don't know how that's going to... So, I don't know what that means really. She has completed her BA and MA at Sciences Po in Paris. She's the 2010 recipient of the first prize of the Sakıp Sabancı International Research Award for a paper on multiculturalism in Turkey. Stephen Larrabee doesn't need a lot of introduction. He holds the corporate chair in European security at the RAND Corporation. He served on the National Security Council's staff in the Carter administration and has been director of studies at the Institute for East-West Security Studies in New York. He's a frequent commentator and has published extensively on U.S.-Turkey relations and transatlantic issues. He holds a PhD in political science from Columbia University. So I'll turn the floor over to Juliette first for her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to start this talk by kind of, as a good academic, kind of questioning the question that we're asking here today, which was like the name of the talk, Has Turkey Lost Europe? And kind of wonder why is it that we ask this question and what is the meaning of this question for different audiences. And as we ask this question here in DC, I think it has a very interesting effect, as was mentioned just before, of flipping the question that we usually ask, which is about, who lost Turkey and why did we lose Turkey, and did we lose Turkey or not? And I think it's very interesting here to reverse the question and kind of think here of not being Turkey as the object of our inquiry, but really being Europe, being the one which might have been lost or not, and kind of looking at it from a Turkish perspective. And having this agency, which is kind of reversed here, and within the American context, I think it's a very healthy question to ask. Yet, if you think about it from a European perspective, I think for actually exactly the same reason, it's a little bit of a kind of risky question to ask, because it kind of relegates the agency to Turkey being kind of the one to blame if there is a problem, and kind of positioning Europe as being this kind of desired object for whom kind of no one is good enough to really being able to earn Europe. So I think just trying to keep in mind that, from a European perspective, it is important to think this question really in parallel with kind of the mirror question of has Europe lost Turkey as well, kind of as two interactive questions. Did they lose one another? And remember that this is a two-way relationship. And again, for the same reason, I think for a Turkish audience, and especially given kind of the recent transformation of the Turkish political landscape, this question becomes again a very healthy question to ask, because there has been kind of a burst of self-confidence in Turkish politics recently, which kind of has this effect of usually blaming the European side of being kind of the sole responsible for the fact that the relationship is not going as well as expected. And so I think it's good from a Turkish perspective to also look at what can be done on the Turkish side. Turkey has been working a lot on Europe, kind of keeping the official discourse of being pro-European and advancing European reforms, and kind of doing a lot of work as well, but kind of lacks recently kind of the symbolical gesture, and you can feel this tendency among Turkish leaders that there is kind of a disaffect from Europe, which might be a reason of the reason we're here. So I think in any case, just to kind of set the context a little bit here, it's important to think of really the relationship as being a two-way street, of looking at both, not so much who has lost one another, but what are kind of the interactive effect between the two sides that can explain the situation we are in today. The other kind of context question I would like to ask as I start is really kind of why do we ask this question today, and why do we ask this kind of really kind of negative question? It's kind of a statement of failure, like something has been lost. And I think this was said already, but there are really two kind of separate reasons why we ask this. The first one is kind of the symbolical deadline. We are now, this month, exactly 5 years after the beginning of the negotiations. And when you look back at what you expected, what was expected 5 years ago in terms of how far the process would go, given that at the time we were thinking that the process would take about 14 to 15 years, we are now 5 years later, so kind of 1/3 of the time has been passed, but 1/3 of the way in terms of the work that has to be done has not been accomplished. So there is this kind of, suddenly kind of taking stock of what has been done and kind of wondering why, after 5 years, we have, so many, only 13 chapters open, only one which is provisionally closed, and why we couldn't go as far away as we thought in the process. But I think the other reason why we're asking this question today is kind of a broader discussion that we have here as well in DC, regarding kind of where does Turkey stand today, and what does Turkey want in terms of foreign policy, and kind of the future of Turkey in terms of where it is positioned on the international scene. And this is obviously not a new debate, it's something that we kind of talk about again and again, but it kind of gained new ground after June of this year with kind of the double events, kind of shock events of, on the one side, the flotilla crisis, and on the other side, Turkey's no vote at the UN Security Council, which was combined with the Brazil-Turkey-Iranian deal on Iranian nuclear projects. And I just kind of comparing from the European to the American side, it's very interesting to see that whereas kind of the flotilla crisis was kind of the crux of the matter from a Washington perspective, the flotilla crisis was not kind of a big deal for European leaders. It was in many ways kind of European public opinion is much closer to Turkish public opinion on the whole Israelo-Palestinian question. And so I think if it was not for the way this crisis has affected the US-Turkey relationship, the flotilla crisis is not having such an impact as such on the Turkey-EU relationship. However, the no vote at the UN Security Council seems to have had much of an effect on the Turkey-EU relationship. And it was received it was received quite critically in Europe. The whole idea that this deal was not what was kind of going against the whole diplomatic actions that have been taken towards Iran, and that Turkey was clearly kind of drifting away and acting almost against European or transatlantic interests. So this is kind of a little bit the context in which we ask this question of has Turkey lost Europe? And here again, one of the things I would like to argue, it's kind of self-evident, but I think it's healthy to remind this as well. Lost is a very strong term, and it sounds like a very definite answer, like, we had it and now we lost it and that's over. I think it's much more helpful to think in terms of continuum in the relationship between Turkey and Europe, which has highs and lows, and obviously we are, I think, now more in the low side of the things. But I think it's interesting to understand, what does it mean and what does it say about the future of the relationship. So the question I really would like to answer here now is, how does Turkey fare with Europe today? And if you look at the EU accession, which is not kind of the only channel through which Turkey interacts with Europe, but which is the main way, the EU accession is obviously processing at a very snail pace. It's almost frozen, so we have these 13 chapters open, but 18 chapters that are completely frozen. They are kind of a whole set of reasons why kind of both on the European side and both on the Turkish side, things have not developed as good as possible. But really, kind of, I think the crux of the matter here, when we think of this institutional relationship between Turkey and EU, is to think of the Cyprus question. And on that thing, because this is because of the Cyprus question that basically the large majority of the chapters, especially the chapters blocked by the Council, by the European Council, and by Cyprus, are really because of kind of the centrality of the Cyprus question. And on that matter, really recently, on October 18, there was it was not so much talked about in the media, but there was a major setback on this relationship regarding the direct trade regulation, which was, I don't want to go too much into the details, but basically the reason why we have this deadlock now on the process is because Turkey does not open its ports and airports to Cypriot flagged ships, which is in response to the fact that the EU did not pass this direct trade regulation towards North Cyprus, which would have allowed North Cyprus to have a preferential treatment regarding trade. And there was kind of a legal limbo regarding that issue since 2004. And with about a year ago, the entry into the fact that the Lisbon Treaty was applied, there was a hope that we could get out of this legal limbo by having now both the Parliament and the Council co-decide on that particular issue. And this would have kind of had a healthy circle of unlocking all of these issues and hopefully open a number of chapters. But on October 18, the legal service of the European Parliament basically stated that it should not be decided by the Parliament, but it should remain at the Council, where Cyprus can keep blocking this trade. So this is kind of, I think this kind of highlights how much we don't talk much about Cyprus anymore. It's kind of out of the political agenda of Turkey and of Europe in a way. But this is actually, from the institutional point of view of the EU-Turkey relationship, really is a crux. And if some type of settlement would be reached on that particular issue, it would kind of really unravel a whole set of healthy things with new chapters that will be able to be open and chapters that will be able to be closed as well, which would really help the process as a whole. Beyond the EU accession, if you think of Turkey-EU relationship beyond the EU accession, kind of the relationship with national countries, not much is actually happening, and this is kind of one of the problems where the Turkey-Europe relationship is really having a hard time kind of going beyond and around the EU negotiation. Kind of a very interesting illustrating way has been in September, the Council has proposed to have a strategic dialogue between EU and Turkey to kind of being able to talk about foreign policy matters without being kind of stuck within this already frozen negotiation process. But because this is happening in parallel to a process which is frozen, and Turkey kind of perceive it as being a way of, kind of getting the advantage of having Turkey cooperating with the EU while blocking the negotiation on the thing. This could not happen. This is really show how the whole negotiation process is really hijacking the whole Turkey-EU relationship, which is supposed to be much broader than just the negotiation process, but this is having this effect. So if you kind of compare the situation today to the expectation that we had 5 years ago, obviously the situation is we kind of see a really bleak future for the EU-Turkey relationship. Yet, I think it's very important to remember that this whole process is a much more resilient process than just kind of the political battle that is happening on the surface. If on one side, it is kind of difficult to register progress today on this issue, and it seems that it's going to be difficult even if the process get along to even kind of go from finishing the negotiation to full membership, since countries such as France said that there will be a referendum needed to get Turkey into EU. We should also keep in mind that it's even more difficult to actually stop the negotiations process. This is obviously something that never happened so far. Everyone who started the negotiation process eventually made it into the EU. But in practice, you would need kind of all countries of the EU decided at unanimity that they want to stop the process with Turkey, and this is given that you still have a majority of countries, at least governments, that support Turkish accession. This is something which is also very unlikely. So what is happening, and on the other side, the other thing I want to mention is that there are a lot of progress which is actually happening on the negotiation process, kind of behind the stage, things that we don't really hear about, but things that are happening. I'm working a lot on immigration into Turkey, and the Turkish government is actually going through a whole process of reforming the whole migration policy, kind of creating a new asylum law, creating a new law on foreigners, and this is something that no one is really talking on in the media. But this is, they are basically, even though this is technically going on the chapter 24 on freedom and justice of the accession, which is a chapter which is blocked by Cyprus, I think. Turkish government is still, and Turkish administration is still going through this process of aligning its laws with the acquis. So that things are moving beyond the surface. We don't necessarily see them, but things are happening. So it's not clear what would happen in the near future. So I think what's going to happen is that the process is not going to die, right? The process might continue like this in a very unsatisfying position, but it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going, and in a way this has both advantages and disadvantages. In a way, it's also kind of gain time for a Europe which is kind of having a lot of difficulties economically and politically right now, and kind of give it time to digest some of the crises that recently happened, and maybe also give time to Turkey on the other side to kind of work on other foreign policy projects. I'll talk a little bit more about this later. And kind of keep the process alive, and see, and in a way see a little bit later what can be done. But in any case, the fact that this process is here, still technically happening, but very slow, and kind of makes it very dependent on a set of actors. And here I want to kind of look a little bit differently at the Turkey-EU relationship by thinking of who is Europe. When we talk about Europe, what are the actors that we talk about? And there I kind of separate between three different actors. On one side, kind of the EU officials and EU bureaucrats at the EU level. On the other side, the different public opinions in Europe. And the third group being kind of the national governments and basically the 27 national governments and leaders in Europe. And kind of look at, for each of them, to what extent did Turkey lose support among them? And if you look at it like from the perspective of EU officials, actually, their support or lack of support towards Turkey is actually really bound to the technical process of the EU negotiation. So in a way, they are not really, the process is actually much more politicized than it thought, but for them, it's kind of a technical issue, right? The EU made an engagement to go through the negotiation process with Turkey, so they would kind of just apply this process. Looking at it from the perspective of public opinion is overall through Europe is not very favorable to Turkey, but it never was. So in that sense, Turkey did not really lose the public opinion, right? It didn't really improve as much as Turkey would have loved to, but it's not that we kind of measure a setback on that issue. And I think on public opinion on this, if you think of the European construction as a whole, it has never really been a popular project, right? Public opinion has never been really behind the European project. It was always a very elite-driven project that kind of, with the elites taking decisions that would get later on imposed on public opinion. And it's not necessarily that it's a good thing, and it's not necessarily that it has to be always like this. But I think oftentimes political leaders in Europe kind of hide behind this idea of public opinion, saying that, look, our public opinion is against Turkey. What can we do? I think we should not give too much importance to public opinion. This is something that can change. This is something that people in Europe still do not know much about Turkey, and there is a lot of stereotypes, a lot of things that. Lots of misinformation, and I think it is something that can be worked on. This is an important step, but this is not as such something that really matters too much. I think the key actors here are really the national governments and the national political leaders. They are the one who really kind of can decide where the relationship is going to be, and if you look at it, Europe is really not kind of a blanket against Turkey at all. The governments are pretty much divided, with a few countries that are kind of really, you hear their voice a lot, so this is why they sound like being really important, including France, Germany, Austria, and many others that are kind of against Turkey's membership into the EU. But you also have actually the large majority of countries, including big countries, but mainly small countries that are actually for Turkey's accession. So I think this is something important to keep in mind. The other thing being also that governments change, right? We don't know. Okay, there is kind of a trend in Turkey of increasingly kind of more radical right government, anti-Turkey government, and political leaders kind of gaining ground in the European landscape. But you also don't really know what's going to happen in 10 years or 15 years from now. Like someone like Sarkozy, which is kind of really instrumental now in the EU-Turkey relationship, might not be here just 2 or 3 years from now. So I think it's something that we should keep in mind, that things don't look quite good today, but things can also change quite fast, and it's important to do that. So basically, I think on the whole, the conclusion is that it's very difficult to take stock of the relationship because many things are in flux, and there are many kind of changing variables that might change in the longer terms, and things might be different. But another big issue I would like to talk a little bit, which is kind of looming large in the Turkey relationship, which is kind of this new idea that has been born a couple of years ago of, actually the issue now is not so much about Turkey-EU relationship. Turkey has now an alternative, which is his neighborhood, or which is the Middle East, depending on how you define it. And Turkey is now rising as a regional powers, and actually maybe now Turkey doesn't need the EU anymore. Turkey can become this kind of pole of attraction within its neighborhood, being the Black Sea, the Balkans, the Caucasus, the Middle East, and can kind of create, as was talked about, this kind of Middle Eastern Union as an alternative to the European Union, with a kind of visa-free and free trade cooperation among countries in the Middle East, etc. Which is something which is kind of a discourse that has become really popular both in Turkey and in Europe. In Turkey, because it kind of feeds this self-confidence. Maybe the EU doesn't want us, but actually we don't even need them anymore. Like, they will be the one that will need us, and they don't understand that, but we really don't need them at all. And on the other side, many European actors also love this discourse because it sounds like the easy solution. Like, it will be, yes, Turkey is now rising as the regional actors, let them do that. Let them, rise and being independent from us, and it will be kind of an easy way to solve the solution, right? Turkey will be the one who doesn't want us anymore. We would not be the one rejecting Turkey, and it would be a good way of going around this whole promises, unkept promises, and everything. And so it's kind of interesting to see this reasoning, which I think is very short-sighted on both sides, actually. First of all, because on the Turkish side, the EU or the Middle East are not kind of two alternatives. It should really be thought as kind of combined together at two complementary processes. And it's true that Turkey is becoming increasingly popular and attractive in its neighborhood on the economic and political level. But it's also true that Turkey is that attractive, especially because it is close to the EU. And this is because Turkey can give access to EU markets, or because Turkey can be this kind of more favorable voice for the Middle East within the EU that Turkey is attractive. And if Turkey would become disconnected from the EU project, it would lose lots of this attractiveness in the Middle East and in the neighborhood and more in general. It is also true that, and something that we keep forgetting, for domestic stability, Turkey needs the EU, and it doesn't mean that Turkey cannot do well without the EU. It doesn't mean that the EU is much better and that they are the one kind of helping Turkey. It's just the issue that the EU works as this kind of supranational level of governance that ensures stability and kind of, yes, gives some limits to national government, but also helps them protect them from kind of authoritarian or populist derives. Like, this is, I have a friend who keeps making the argument that it's not clear where Italy would be without the EU. Given the rise of Berlusconi and all those different issues, the EU is really acting as kind of this moderator for domestic politics. And we saw that again recently this summer with the whole Roma issue in France and the politics of President Sarkozy. So I think this is something that Turkey should also keep in mind, that the EU would still be greatly in favor and an asset for Turkey to help kind of, we know that on the domestic scene it's not always very stable, and you have a lot of kind of diverging tendencies, and the EU can be really helpful on that part. And then on the other side, looking from an EU perspective, it is also true that the more Turkey becomes a strong and influential power in the neighborhood, the more Turkey should want to have Turkey with itself, because the more it becomes strategically important for the EU to have Turkey on their side and be able to capitalize on Turkey's potential. So to really kind of remind Europe that it would be a win-win strategy to have Turkey, a Turkey which is both powerful in its neighborhood and really closely associated with the EU. And this is kind of a strategic logic which is really well understood here in Washington, but a little bit more difficult to get through in Europe, where kind of politics are a little bit more inward-looking. So just kind of as a set of kind of conclusions of what I was trying to say in the last couple of minutes, I think it is going to be always very important and critical to keep the process going between the EU and Turkey. It's something which is beneficial on both sides. Not an easy process, but something that really at the end is going to have much more rewards than problems. And for that, it's going to be important for the EU to better understand the new parameters of this new multipolar world we live in, and the fact that the EU is not only about kind of internally what we are doing, but also in terms of the way the global powers are redistributed in the world, and how the value of Turkey in this is particularly important. On Turkey's side, I think it is important for Turkey to basically play a little bit more the EU game, right? It's sometimes a little bit frustrating for Turkey to play a game that they considered as unfair, but it's going to be really strategically important and needed to keep to kind of play the game, especially kind of make symbolical steps, kind of showing the engagement on the EU side, and play a little bit more the public opinion card, and try to change public opinion towards Turkey within Europe. Then another, I think, a very important issue that we need to keep inside is really kind of the centrality of the Cyprus issue. Again, it is an issue that we don't talk about much anymore, but it is really a crucial issue for their relationship, and things could really get moving quite a lot if some type of settlement could be found there. And finally, I think it is also important not to be too alarmist on the EU-Turkey relationship. I think the process is not going to break down like this. It might still keep going in a really slow and frustrating direction, but we should also keep in mind that, you know, it's important to be patient. It's probably a cyclical process, and we should, I think, keep acting constructively on this thing, but be patient. That it's not that things are gonna suddenly be better and improve. So there were kind of a couple of things I wanted to say on that.